All right, here we go. We're live. Jason, good morning.
Good
How's it
morning,
going?
Ethan.
Good morning, Ethan.
It's a bright, sunshiny day.
It is a bright, sunshiny day, and we're getting
that eastern sun right in my eyes.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, it's right on the side of my face.
Yeah, right in my left eye.
I'm really
right in
concerned.
Ethan's right.
Yeah, I'm concerned that this cigar is it's pulling really too well almost. It's quite odd. I don't know. It's not lighting either. I think there's something wrong with my
Is there a crack in the wrapper somewhere?
That's what I'm worried about, but I don't see anything. I'm worried that there's a problem with my humidor. I think the whatever that gauge is called that you use to measure humidity.
The hygrometer.
Hygrometer, is that what it's called? Okay.
I believe so.
I think the one.
It's very similar, I think, to another word that's not the right thing. So I may be wrong there, but I believe hygrometer is. I'm sure in an internet search, if you put in cigar humidor hygrometer, you'll at least get what you're looking for.
Okay. Yeah, I think my hygrometer is inaccurate or messed up.
I don't think they're terrible. Yeah, I don't know. You have a little box humidor?
Yeah, it's probably like a.
You haven't built a room yet?
No, I have not built a room yet. No, it's probably like a 2.5 gallon box. Like
2.5 gallon. Okay. All right.
It holds it's supposed to hold like 30 or 40 cigars, I think. Well, it's my little brother's, and he let me use it, so that's what I'm repping. He's up doing his snowboarding gig.
Oh. Yeah.
He's living out of a.
Is he doing the van life?
He's doing the van life. He got a trailer. He got a trailer, and his build didn't look. I think I've talked about this before, but his build did not look too dissimilar from
I see
this.
that time. Okay.
Yes, sir. There you go. Sorry
As
about
if
that.
I can with the glare.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah,
You're just gonna have to tell me what time we're at.
I can barely tell either.
There. If I just rub.
Oh yeah, there it is.
There we go.
Boom. Now we know the time.
You just been touching the screen. Is it a touch screen? Mm-mm. Okay. I was like, did I just mess up setting by rubbing my finger continually?
Yeah, it is.
That joke's not going to fly on the.
It is not. Nobody gets to see the hand motion.
We're going to have to restart this. That's just a whole bunch of visual jokes that everyone's going to miss.
Yeah, I'm talking about a cigar in my hand. No one can see or smell. Yeah, it's great. I've got also, by the way, I've got a cup of coffee. It's beautiful. It smells so good. I mean, I wish you guys could smell this cup of coffee.
Mine's reheated coffee from yesterday with just the dregs of. It's terrible.
You caveman, dude.
Super bitter.
I can imagine, dude. Oh, whoops. That's gotta.
Especially since we microwave it. We got rid of our microwave.
Okay.
In our first house.
Yeah.
Partially to save space, but also in a belief that it's probably not good for your food.
Yeah, it probably isn't. I can't
irradiate
imagine.
it.
Yeah.
We haven't done a whole lot of in-depth study on it, but the fact that it makes everything such a different consistency than when you bake or cook it in any other way.
Yeah.
Any other heating method, it makes me
nervous,
uneasy about using it.
Yeah. Yeah, the toaster ovens are like just as good as microwaves. They take like only maybe a minute longer to heat things up.
Yeah, toaster oven is great. And we just started using our oven. I started reheating my coffee in a little metal pot that I bought for $2 or $3 at Goodwill.
Yeah.
I would just pour it in there. Because I also read that it destroys the aromatic qualities of the coffee when you microwave it. And so you're not getting as good a cup of coffee. But if you reheat it gently on the stove, like an electric or gas range,
yeah,
in a little metal pot, it seems to retain its coffeeness and taste a lot more like a fresh cup of coffee as opposed to,
yeah. We get these like I talked about this before, but we get these like specialty coffees that you order offline, and my wife will she will microwave them. First of all, she'll make a cup of coffee and then not drink it. Bugs the crap out of me. I find half drunk cups of coffee all over our house constantly.
Is that because she's interrupted with the baby and things?
I don't know. Well, no, because she did it well before we had the kid.
Oh, okay.
So she just she likes the idea of having a cup of coffee.
It's more just the comfort of having it around.
Yeah.
I can relate to that. I have it around even if I'm not drinking it.
Yeah, and I do, like, whenever I finish my coffee, I'm like, dang, I wish I still had a cup of coffee. I should go make another one. But then I go, I'm not going to drink it though, so I'm not going to make one because it's like expensive. We have like nice coffee, and so this morning she was upset. She came up to me and had her bag of beans, and like I have my bag and she has her bag. She came up to me and was like,
His and hers.
yeah, because we want different. Because I have to drink half calf, so I have to have like a different.
Okay, gotcha.
And so she came up to me and was like, I'm almost out of our Stumptown coffee. And I was like, holding my coffee and was like, it's still like almost entirely full. And I was like, how is that even possible? I haven't even got through half of this yet, dude. You've consumed your entire bag in like 3 weeks. It's crazy because she'll make the coffee. She'll not drink it. Then she'll microwave it and then continue to not drink it. And then finally drink it halfway through the day. And then at 2 p.m. she'll make another cup of coffee that she just doesn't even have a single sip of. And I find it at 8 p.m. before I'm going to go to bed and dump it out.
Why don't you leave that for her to microwave in the morning? You're the one wasting her coffee. If you just
Actually,
leave her to her own,
my fault. Yeah.
If you would just leave it to her, she'll take care of it one way or another.
Well, no, because she won't. Because the next morning, if I leave it out the next morning till the next morning, then I come in and I find it with like some sort of filmy crust formed over it.
Yeah.
And then I just watch her pour it out.
Oh.
And she'll be like, "Oh, I didn't drink this cup of coffee." I'm like, "That's every day for the past 5 years." Why are you surprised by your own actions? Wives, man. That's one thing you really. I don't know how many. Is there any amount of exposure to women that will make some of their behaviors make sense to us, or is it just always?
I think it probably is a two-way street, which is helpful.
Of course, yeah, obviously, dude. My wife will never understand how one single human can fart so many times in a 30-minute period right after they wake up.
And so loudly.
It's so loudly, dude. I've got a bottomless gas tank full of farts.
Bottomless
dude.
bottom.
A bottomless bottom, dude. Yeah, dude. Especially if I've had any more than like 3 beers, my wife knows she's in for it the following morning. She's like dreading me waking up because it's gonna be bad.
Because you apparently can't fart in your sleep.
The other day,
Or you do, just constantly throughout the night, but it's quieter.
the other day, she asked me. The baby woke up, and so she got up to tend to the baby, and while she was taking care of her, getting him back down, she thought I was awake, and I don't think I was, and then I woke up the next morning. We were talking about last night and like kind of reviewing, figuring out what needs to change, whatever, and she said, "Did you wake up?" And I said, "I don't think so." And she said, "You were farting like you were awake." So apparently, like, that's how
she wake her up.
Yeah, that's how she like judges whether or not I'm awake, is whether or not I'm
How loud the
farting.
farts are.
Yeah,
If he's awake, he's farting.
yeah. So there's that.
30 years in the future, the paramedics will be working on you because you had a heart attack. Then he'll start farting and she'll be like, "Oh, thank God.
No, he's alive.
He's alive."
Thank goodness. Yeah. Yeah.
This is either the best or worst opening we've ever had.
Yeah. Either the
And
funniest
especially
or
could
the
lead into, we have children's books today, guys.
Yeah, the topic today is kids books.
Yeah, it's story hour.
Yeah, we're gonna go
With the work hard guys.
Yeah, adult man farting into little kids books, which is a great segue. Jason, take it away.
Take it away. Well, I have a few options,
Okay,
and I guess
let's start by telling us what we're tackling here.
the
What's the idea?
that I had was that as y'all are starting up families, or if you already have families, those families, and this is probably riffing a bit off of Stories Are Soul Food. So if you want the more full version of this this 1 or 2 episodes that we're doing here with children's stories, if you want to learn more about stories and teaching your kids, as N.D. Wilson says, to be great characters in the story of their life, then go listen to Stories Are Soul Food. Start from the beginning and work your way through. It's a great podcast. Very useful for dissecting stories and understanding what makes a good character and what makes a good story. So Anyway, there's things that you can pull out from good children's books. They're not just mindless drivel that you see on TV. Like the cartoons, Arthur used to be decent, but it's trash now, and Sesame Street, and these are old examples. The stuff now I'm not even really aware of because I haven't seen half of it, but the stuff I have seen looks pretty lousy.
Yeah, it's pretty
But
bad.
the art is trash. It's really lazy, simple drawings that are computer animated for ease and pumping out as much. There's nothing that makes me more frustrated in seeing kids watching badly animated trash shows.
Yeah.
That is the kid version of, what is that show that we've been telling? We started off this podcast when I came on about this is the alternative to what was that podcast?
Whatever.
Whatever.
The
Yes.
Whatever. Yeah.
All those kid shows are the whatever version for kids. It's just mindless entertainment, just something with colors and sounds to keep them occupied and shut them up.
Yeah.
But you're making your kids stupid by putting that in front of them.
Yeah.
You're putting them on a little heroin drip, a little heroin IV mental drip
Certainly.
by putting them in front of that stuff. So don't raise iPad kids. That's what this episode is about.
Yeah.
Don't raise iPad kids.
Our daughter gets...
You're a negligent and possibly abusive parent if you do so.
Yeah,
on
certainly.
any regular basis.
Yeah.
I'm not above saying, all right, mom and dad need to get something done. The kids are too little to help. We're going to put on a quality movie for you, a quality TV show. I have nothing against quality movies and TV shows, and neither does Andy Wilson. They watch movies as a family all the time and dissect them. There's some great movies.
Yeah, but don't be putting your kids in front of Coco Melon all day, every day.
They shouldn't have their own iPad, I don't think.
Certainly not.
So
Certainly not.
I think that's just that's a bad way to go.
Yeah, before we dive into this, I do want to say one thing, which is an observation I've made that I think is pretty critical, which is there is an obvious and clear difference between iPad kids and non-iPad kids. How do I say this without... I'm thinking of a specific example that's too personal to say. I'll just abandon examples. But there's a like observable difference. You can tell the kids that don't get screen time, like all of the kids at our church. Like I don't think any, like I would imagine your kids get incredibly limited screen time compared to most kids. Do you guys
none
have
now. Did I tell you that the laptop we'd been using as a DVD player
Oh,
finally broke?
Yeah.
So they haven't seen a movie probably in 2 weeks.
Yeah.
They haven't
Okay.
seen a screen basically.
Yeah. So we don't have a TV. I know there are many people in our church, especially in our group, don't have TVs. Abigail sees maybe 10 minutes of screens a week. Maybe. Like that's excessive even. Maybe 5 minutes of screens a week right now. And there is a very clear marked difference between the little kids, like under 2-year-old kids at our church, and the under 2-year-old kids that I see like at the grocery store. Mm-hmm. Like the cognitive difference is astounding. So keep that in mind as well as we. Stories aside, like on a purely like clinical level, like screens are just. They're
Especially the fast-paced images.
Yeah, LCD screens with lots of
Lots of quick scene changes.
lots of colors, like all that dopamine.
Very, very bright, very exciting all the time.
Yeah.
TikTok for little kids.
Yeah.
It has to be short segments. Our attention span isn't very long, and we're not going to train it to be any longer. Just saying that kids can't focus on longer things and leaving it at that and going, well, then we'll just feed them constantly short things is never going to train them to do better.
Right, exactly. So, training them to do better. What do you train them to, what do you use to train them to do better? Jason, tell me about that.
Well, my parents did a really good job, I think, in reading us good stories. and not just like picture books. There were some favorite picture books that I had as a kid, and when we grew older to listen to like chapter length books, my dad would often read in the evenings, or like he would finish up his dinner and then read to us while the rest of us kept eating dinner.
Yeah.
So that's what we do now as a family, and our kids absolutely love it. They are super invested in the story, the full-length chapter books that are part of series.
Yeah.
We have an almost 8-year-old, a 6-year-old, an almost 4-year-old, and an infant. And the older two especially, have been able to sit through stuff for quite a while. The youngest one is, well, not the youngest, third youngest, is doing better and better with it. And he's not terribly disruptive. He'll be listening. He might interrupt more to ask questions or make observations.
Yeah.
Which is fine to an extent. If he's interacting with the story, that's fine. It can be a little frustrating trying to get through the story sometimes, but that's more my issue than it is his. It's good that he's paying attention and makes him think of things. But anyway, this is going back to before that. This is just the picture books phases, and I will say one of our favorite not authors, she is primarily an illustrator, so a lot of her books are not written by her, but they all have a very similar flavor in that they're typically drawn from a historical, like an American historical family that existed, or a community. In the case of Basket Moon,
okay,
it's written by Mary Lynn Ray, but the illustrator is Barbara Cooney, and her other, I couldn't find it, or I didn't find it. My favorite Barbara Cooney book is called Roxaboxen,
okay,
which is a story about kids and their ability to imagine, even in the most unimaginative and bleak areas. It was in the story is set. These kids they make a little town of their own, a little play town in like Yuma, Arizona, in the desert, where there's nothing but like sand, cactus, and rocks. And so they use rocks to outline little streets and houses, and they have their own shops and their own little government, the police. They have wars between the girls and boys. So it's fantastic.
Yeah.
So, and I remember being inspired by that book when I was a kid, and we had a pine tree out back, and so I went and made paths by, making dirt paths through the pine needles by scooting the pine needles aside, and I used dandelion leaves for dollar bills for our currency instead of, they had like little, in Roxaboxen they used black stones that are harder to find. That was like their currency. That was the valuable stone.
Yeah.
So that's what they used for money for Roxaboxen.
Okay.
Anyway, fantastic book, and it was a true story, so I think it was drawn from actual. It's not just imagined.
Yeah, somebody's memory.
Right. Let's see. Another Barbara Cooney book that's a Caldecott Medal winner is called Oxcart Man. Again, this is not by Barbara Cooney. It's written by Donald Hall, and the pictures are by Barbara Cooney. And this isn't like the story of excuse me.
Yeah, no worries.
That's what happens when I do too much of the talking, I guess. I'm going to stay away from that coffee. That is killer. This one is about, I like the Oxcart Man because it pictures a typical family economy, like pre-industrial revolution.
Yeah.
Or at least somebody who did not participate in the industrial revolution in the same way.
Okay.
So this is a guy and his family. He raises an ox each year. He builds the wagon for it, and then he walks like 3 days to town once a year and sells everything that his family made or had left over, things that they didn't eat but had stored. And he sells it all, gets the money from that, buys a few more tools and upgrades some things.
Yeah.
And then brings it back home, and they start over again, and he starts doing the same thing. So it's this fantastic year-long cycle. He's got a young ox in the barn that he's going to raise up and train. He starts splitting wood to make a new wagon because he sells everything he goes into town with.
Yeah.
And then just comes back with like a stick on his shoulder and a kettle that he bought for his wife and some peppermint candies as a treat and something for his daughter to make something new with and a knife for his son to to carve more brooms with, So
Yeah.
each person in the family makes something in their spare time in the evenings, and they all contribute to the family income, basically. They're subsistence farmers, more or less, but they do obviously have to earn some money. They can't manufacture a kettle. And this kind of goes back to how it's delusional to say, I'm going to be completely subsistent. Like,
Sure.
I will make everything. I will mine the ore out of the ground. I will refine it, and I will make my own tools and my own machinery. It's like I don't know if I've even seen some, even the most hardcore preppers and the most hardcore, like, historical,
Yeah, like off the
even
grid.
the people who are old-fashioned blacksmiths, I don't think are mining and refining their own metal.
Yeah.
They're still getting pig iron, like the blocks of iron,
Right.
to melt down to make it, which is a whole industry in and of itself.
Yeah.
Even that guy, who is very old-fashioned and is using an old-fashioned manual working bellows and coal or whatever, and he didn't mind the coal.
Right.
Anyway, so I will say that it's delusional to say that I can be an island and I can be independent from society and the rest of the world completely.
Yeah.
I think that's foolhardy.
But there is a lot to say about building walls around yourself.
True, and even more so with this one is their family is tied together because they need each other to survive.
Yeah.
They don't all have their own independent job. The wife doesn't have a job where she could just go, well, I'm not really happy with my husband right now, so I'm going to leave him because I make enough money to survive on my own.
Right.
And the husband doesn't go, well, you can make these things, and therefore I don't need my wife anymore. I'm going to go and have myself a mistress. And he's also not in a place in an office where he can be exposed to potential mistresses and adultery.
Right.
Like, he's at home all the time.
Right.
Working hard. And so it's this kind of family aesthetic that appeals to me and I think is really healthy. And this is not to disparage what you're doing.
Yeah, no, I don't feel like
this
it's
is more like
disparaging.
backing up what I'm trying to do is I want to give. And but what I mean by disparaging what you're doing is that your daughter and wife are not involved directly with the means of income
Yeah.
that you're making.
Right, certainly.
Because it's so specialized.
Right. Certainly.
But you being home all the time still allows you a lot of interaction with
Yes.
them and
Yeah.
influence over them. And you guys can do lots of secondary subsistence stuff that they are involved with or possibly taking lead on.
Yeah, I mean,
Like you're talking about with various
Yeah, one of the things-
farming, market gardening.
yeah, one of the
that.
things that I think is a real that I think you could take, because I mean, we've said this 1,000 times, but of the two of us, I am far more invested in modernity and a bigger believer in complex modern economies. But one of the ways you can adapt that is that your wife will have much more opportunity to fulfill the role in the Bible. It described the Bible. I don't remember which book and which verse this is in, but the description of a godly woman running her household, going to market and making deals and finding good deals and being sort of industrious in her own way, and that can play out with
The Proverbs 31 woman.
yes.
She considers a field and buys it.
Right.
It's like, this is a businesswoman.
Right.
She's
So-
smart.
Right. She still rolls up underneath the headship of her husband.
Right.
But she's smart. She's a businesswoman. And so the way that this played out for us is that Emily, as my ability to go out and make enough money in such a specialized way to relieve her of having to be directly involved with the making of the money and provision for the house, it's freed her up to go out and start her own business. And so now she's got this bakery that she's working on. And she's doing that out of our kitchen.
I didn't know that. That's cool.
Yeah. She's doing specialty bread loaves. So if it's an event, she makes these really fancy artisan bread loaves that are like all decorated. So you put them out and they're part of like a bigger decoration
Oh,
for like
cool.
a party and stuff.
All right.
Yeah. So that's one way that can play out in a more modern way, I guess you would say. Is like you are freeing up your wife to go out and engage in another way to contribute monetarily to the home. And that is something like Abigail sits up
Can
on a
easily
stool
be involved with that
and
now.
helps mix stuff. And yeah, so that is another way that like you can engage a modern market and a modern social order in that way, in a way. But also I don't feel disparaged or any, like you can like something without disliking
Well,
the
I
other
didn't want
another
to
thing.
paint it as here's the ideal. That's what I'm getting at.
Yeah.
Well, here, I'll say this much. I think it is. What is the ideal is to have every member of your family in some way have meaning and purpose in caring for the household.
Absolutely.
Which can, at its most basic level, be give them chores.
Yeah.
Not to make them slaves, but to give them worth. Mm-hmm. The children have to do work or they will not feel a part of the family because they will not be contributing. And if people are not contributing, they do not feel worthwhile.
Yeah.
They do not feel worthy.
Absolutely.
Which is why we have such a difficult time accepting grace from God without doing something for it.
Yeah.
So it's in our nature to
yes.
want to contribute, or it's like, well, we don't really deserve that.
Yes. Yeah. That's a good point.
So if you're like, here, sit in front of this iPad, you stupid child, while the adults get the
some
important
done.
stuff, you are a drag on our family economy
Yeah.
as opposed to contributing to it.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to, and really, like starting to train them on chores, I've found is like they're not going to be a big help in the beginning. It will actually be more work for you to train them on chores in the beginning.
Yeah.
Because they'll break dishes by dropping them instead of washing them.
Yeah.
It'll be slow, but you or your wife, or you have to tell your wife, like, it's important that they learn these things. You have to take the time to train them
Yeah.
because it will reduce your labor in the future. It's an investment in time and training. Just like if you're part of a company anywhere, you know what a new employee is like and about how worthless they are.
Yeah.
If they've never worked in that job before, they're going to be a drag on the company economy for a little bit. But
Yeah.
the company is not stupid and it knows, hey, I have to train them up. We allocate a certain percentage of our,
Yeah. We have this company
budget
has a
to-
future.
Yes, exactly. And it doesn't involve only the people working here right this moment. We have to onboard new people
Right.
if we're going to grow.
Right.
Or even just maintain, because people eventually will retire
Yeah.
or leave for other opportunities. Like you have to invest time in training. The family is no different. There is a family economy. And
Yeah.
it doesn't all involve money. Some of it is the laundry has to be done. The floors have to be swept or mopped. Things have to be dusted. Things have to be cleaned. The yard has to be picked up. The yard has to be mowed. And there's all sorts of little tasks, even just picking up their own clothes. Don't let your children forever be a drag on your wife.
Certainly.
And part of that is, and I had to tell my Emily this at some point. I'm like, she wanted to do everything because the
Yeah.
kids, it's so difficult to get them to, they don't understand what picking up means.
Right.
It's like, it's as tedious as at first just saying, here, come and pick this up, and then showing them, pick this toy up and put it in this basket. Now you see there's another toy, and you point right to it, pick this toy up. And they're like, slowly, oh, pick this toy up?
Yeah.
Gotcha. You're like, now put it in the basket. There, good job. You helped pick up.
Yeah.
It's really tedious
Yeah.
because, telling them what we found out painfully was like telling them to pick up your room means nothing to them. They're like, and they're overwhelmed very easily. Or at least
Yeah.
our kids are or were in those first moments, those first times. And so we had some rough there's some rough growing pains there. They're better now. They understand at least what it means, but they can still get overwhelmed if you're not specific enough with a task.
Yeah.
Make sure they understand the task and have demonstrated it before you leave to go do something else.
Yeah.
Because that was part of our problem, is like telling them to do something and leaving in half an hour, coming back and nothing has changed. And they're just sitting there looking at a book. And you're like, why didn't you do what you were told to? Well, I didn't know what to do. I told you to pick up, but there's so much. You start with one thing. First, pick up only the books.
Yeah.
All the books go in this basket. All the books in your bed, pick them up, put them in the basket. Okay? I'll be right back in 5 minutes. This better be done.
And that's a like
Chop it up into little pieces.
yeah, and that's a huge part of equipping someone to deal with the rest of their life. Not even it's a huge part of parenting in general. It's not just something that contributes to your house, although it does, obviously.
Right.
And it's not something that just contributes to them having a sense of purpose. It's a thing that contributes to them understanding how to function as an adult. Like that was something that my parents did not do a good job of. And I was like, last year, I'd have a big task, and I'd expect, well, this is just impossible. This is just too big of a task. Mm-hmm. Like I would still think that way until like recently. Until I was like, well, why don't you just start moving? Just do something little, and eventually it'll get done.
Yeah, you have, and that's what I'm stressing, like, because it's this house building for me.
Right.
Incredibly overwhelming.
I can't even imagine. Yeah.
But it's the same thing. It's the same principle. If you learn the principle of do one little thing at a time, and eventually it'll get done, it's my favorite saying, one of my favorite sayings has become, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time.
Yeah, one bite at a time.
Yeah, eventually everybody eats a whole elephant's worth of meat or food product in their life.
Right.
You'll get through it.
Yeah.
But you have to start.
Right.
You have to take your first bite and don't go, but I'll never be able to fit all that in my stomach.
Yeah. That'll be good. Sorry, everybody. No, that'll be funny. That'll be good.
There's the mic spike for
yeah. Oh, yeah. Okay, good.
We talked about mic spikes.
We talked about the mic spike. I always think those are the best.
I got the first mic spike today.
You got the first one. Yeah, certainly. I mean, my job is effectively to go get in contact with some of the most some of the biggest companies on the planet and to get them to agree to do business with us. Mm-hmm. And that's an incredibly huge task. And it can be very intimidating, but you just start. Just one email at a time. You don't even think about like the larger picture.
No, you can't.
You can't think about the larger picture.
Which is also largely a woman's problem, I think.
Yes.
And maybe not.
I think it is.
You think it is? Okay.
Yeah, I think guys can pretty autistically get focused on one or two things at a time, and that allows us to check down from the bigger picture.
Compartmentalize.
Compartmentalize.
Which is why that's why we're made for wartime.
Right.
In case you haven't heard this, if you haven't heard this before, women would not do well in the trenches because if their buddy got shot, their gal pal got shot, that would be all consuming.
Right.
Whereas it would fuel the man to maybe fight harder.
Right. And she would be overcome
He'd just be like, blankety blank.
Yeah. A girl would be overcome with like the existential dread of like the nature of what she's doing there.
Mm-hmm. Whereas the guy can possibly get into a mind space.
I think guys can get into that mind space easily, but guys can also just completely turn that off. Like girls don't have a choice. Like they just live in that world.
Oh, I meant they can get in the mind space of where they... Yeah, if they do get in that mind space, the existential crisis of it, the fear of death, then it's over and they have a breakdown. Then they just shut down and like they're useless.
Right.
That's PTSD and we get into all sorts of... Anyway, but they have the ability to compartmentalize and go, this is the job I have to do. And this is what I'm here doing. I'm not going to think about my family back home. I'm not going to think about how many buddies I've had that have died here.
Right.
Unless it's to help fuel my...
my rage.
I
got to take this
focus. Hill. Yeah, exactly. We got to take this hill.
Yeah.
And if I die trying, then that's my job right now.
Yeah.
But I'm not going to think about that. I'm not going to think about how much it'll hurt to get hit by shrapnel.
It probably won't hurt, honestly. I have a running because it doesn't hurt to get punched like as hard as you could. I've been punched as hard as you can possibly be punched by professional boxers in the face, and it doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt at all. It hurts later when your adrenaline goes down and like.
Well, yeah, if your adrenaline's already up.
It starts to ache a little bit.
Very, very little things hurt a lot when you're just out of bed and have no adrenaline. If you stub your toe, that's like
very
agonizing.
True. Yeah, that's true.
You're like rolling on the floor. Like, wife, please hold me.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you're like up and your blood's pumping, it's like, hit me.
Yeah, it isn't. Yeah. Yeah, that's very true. Like the, being able to compartmentalize is a really big deal. Being able to not get intimidated by the magnanimity the largeness of your task. That's a big deal, and that starts with this kind of stuff, with chores and helping them understand, like, you eat an elephant one bite at a time. And it does make sense that, like, a 5-year-old is going to get like intensely overwhelmed by the idea of cleaning up their room. That's an overwhelming. I get overwhelmed by the idea of cleaning up my office. I'm like, oh, there's so many beer cans. Dude, I had fruit
How am I
flies.
going to carry all these out?
Yeah, I got to carry one at a time.
Maybe not quite. One armful at a time.
Yeah, one armful at a time.
One bag at a time.
Yeah.
Do be smart about it.
Do be smart about it.
Work smarter, not harder.
Yeah. You want to be smart about it.
Work smarter and harder.
Yes. Yeah. In the name of the
In the name of the podcast, do not.
Don't be lazy. Don't be lazy. Yeah, certainly. It takes it, and it's not. It takes about, I don't know, 30 minutes to empty 6 months worth of beer cans out of an office like that. So it's not that big of a deal. You can get it done.
I can't believe that little office of yours can fit 6 months of beer cans.
You can if you're creative.
I've seen you drink.
It's a lot of beer cans.
Yeah.
Yeah. Dude, I got.
Like, how could that withstand a week's worth?
Just for the record, I'm not like.
Does this mean like you just crunch them into a aluminum layer, and so your floor?
They're
raises?
just everywhere. They're just placed everywhere.
Oh, I thought maybe if you crushed them down, you could actually have a floor that's made up of flat
Just
aluminum
flat
cans.
beer cans. No.
Yeah, and your floor. Then when you can no longer step into your office, or when your knees are above your desk because the floor's got so high, then
Yeah.
you're like, it's time.
It's time. It's time. They gotta go. No, dude. I have my system.
Taking the day off.
my system is that I fill my trash can first, and then I take the cases, and then I'll use the cases as little trash cans, and that way, and then I can keep it all organized. I can keep them like in the
You
cases,
stack
and then when it's time, when I'm finally like, all right, there's fruit flies in here, these things they gotta go. Then I can just go get a trash bag and start filling them with the cases and take them out. Pretty easy. Which I had to do this week. I'm interviewing Chris this afternoon, actually.
No way.
Yeah, we're going to do an interview about the
Medieval times. Isn't it?
Yeah, medieval. Yeah, there's like psychology and imagination of literate people in the medieval era. I think it's gonna be a cool conversation. So look out for that.
Very cool.
Yeah, but so I had to clean my office this week, and it was actually really not as bad as it has been in the past. It's been way worse, but this week was obnoxious. It took me like an hour to clean that little office.
Oh my goodness.
All right.
Moving right along.
Moving right along.
This next one is a book. I found this in a shop recently. I'm not familiar with the author or illustrator. It's written by Kobe Yamada, if I'm pronouncing that right, and illustrated by Elise Hurst. I should stop to mention that my two criteria for whether or not a kid's book stays in our household. So sorry to any of you out there. If any family or friends are listening and you've given us books that don't meet these two criteria, they may not be around anymore. If the art is not beautiful or well done, like it wasn't, like if it's not art, I'll say that.
Yeah.
If it's just crap pictures.
Yeah.
If it's the equivalent of Peppa Pig or Paw Patrol,
Yeah.
anything like that, it's not staying.
Yeah.
If it's, and this is maybe more of a problem with like Disney princess knockoff stories, which are difficult to get rid of because
They're everywhere.
we've been given a few of those.
Yeah.
And my daughters, of course, are in love with
Enthralled.
them. Yeah, enthralled with the stupid Disney princess, and they don't quite understand what a good story is yet.
Yeah.
Inherently, I think they do because they are still drawn into actually good stories or true stories that we're reading,
Certainly.
but they also still like the candy corn version of
Yeah.
that.
Yeah. It's all crap.
trash.
Yeah. Yeah. Like crap is always going to be
Appealing.
appealing. Yeah.
Yes.
I mean, even as an adult, like
Just
there
like
are
the
times.
whatever podcast is intriguing to watch. It's tempting to watch because you've got bozos being interviewed.
Yeah. You just don't have to think, man. It's just like you're just like
yeah.
your brain just like uses more calories. You know, when you're listening to like an intelligent thing, like you're having to think, you're listening to an audiobook, you're reading whatever, it's, you know, something big, and you're having to think about it. There are plenty of times where I have a car ride and I'm like, dude, I'm just going to listen to the Shane Gillis podcast. Like, I know this is grungy crap, but like, I'm just going to turn it on
He
for
has a
30 minutes.
podcast?
Yeah, he has a podcast. I can literally, I used to be able to listen to like whole episodes. It's gotten so bad that it's like
Oh,
10
really?
minutes. I'm like, oh, dude,
What
I
does he
can't.
talk about?
The exact opposite of everything we talk about. Talks
Oh, that's
about how cool porn is. Talks about,
What?
yeah, talks about, like,
Oh, no.
yeah. It's not good.
That's sad.
Yeah.
This book, written by Kobe Yamada, illustrated by Elise Hurst, is called Trying. And the
Okay.
illustrations, I think, are just beautiful.
Yeah, it looks beautiful.
Yeah. So this is about, it's a young boy. He looks like he's maybe about 12 or 13. And he comes into this workshop of a sculptor. And like this sculptor is working on like 30-foot statues of dragons and lions and stuff like that.
Yeah.
And the first line is, the boy goes, "How do you do that?" And then the sculptor said, "You simply do it." And the boy says, "Oh no, I could never do that." And the sculptor replies, "How do you know?" And the boy says, "I just know." So the sculptor encourages the boy to at least try. And the boy tries on like a little, he's just full of doubts, this poor kid.
Sure.
And he comes back, though. He just wants to watch. He doesn't want to try things because he knows he can't mess it up if he just watches. If he doesn't try, he won't fail.
Right.
So this kid is afraid of failure, which is a very relatable.
Oh, certainly.
Like a lot of people are going to relate to that. So the sculptor talks about the fear of failing being the scariest part, and it stops most people from starting. But he said the only way to get to where you want to go is to take a step in that direction. And the best way to do that is to begin. So he's dreaming about all these fantastic things he wants to carve,
Yeah.
and he starts out, and of course he has this image of how he wants it to turn out, and it just looks awful. It doesn't turn out, or at least it doesn't turn out the way he wants it to, and he's discouraged. And the sculptor says, "Well, I'd like you to try again. I'm really excited that you tried." He's incredibly encouraging. This sculptor's an old man, if I didn't mention that. Tried again and failed. So eventually he continues working through the encouragement that the sculptor gives him, and he's still making lousy stuff, fails over and over and over again to do what he wants to do. And then he said, "I went to talk to the sculptor, and he asked me to go for a walk with him. He said, 'I know it can be hard when things don't turn out as you had hoped, but be proud of your failures. I know I am, every one of them.'" And the boy says, "I can't imagine you ever failing." He laughed. "More times than I can count. But each time you fail, you get a little smarter, a little braver, a little stronger. The truth is, we are all failures. The dreamers, the doers, the creators. Being a failure means you loved something. You cared. It means you stepped forward. You didn't hold back. You tried. That is why I brought you here." He gestured to the statues around him. "These are my friends. These are my failures. And I'm grateful for every one of them because they helped me become who I am today. I will tell you a secret," the sculptor confided. "I am now much closer to the end of my life than the beginning, and time passes whether we have the courage to do something good and worthwhile or we don't." It's been years since he's been gone. I will always treasure the time I spent with him, and I will never forget our conversations or what he taught me. When we make it safe to fail, we make it safe to succeed. There's a little sculpture over here of the sculptor. that the boy made.
Okay. All right, dude. What is
it
up
getting
with
to you?
these, dude? Why do kids' books get you so good every time?
I know it's even so. Now it shows the final page here
Yeah.
is the boy, the young boy, working on those big, tall, 20, 30-foot statues, and a girl walks in and says, "How do I do that?" Or maybe the boy says, sorry, I guess the boy says, "How do I do that?" Yeah.
That's a pretty good one.
That's pretty good. It
That's a
got
pretty
you.
good one.
I know. I can't tell you how many times I have to pause in reading some books so as to not choke up.
Oh, yeah, dude. Yeah. I just choke up. Pause or no pause, I choke up.
Well, I mean, in order for me to continue reading.
Yeah. That's a good one, dude. I like that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Trying is the name of it. Beautiful illustration. So if it's not beautifully illustrated, I shouldn't say beautifully, but at least that somebody, and I don't necessarily care for all of the art styles of the books that we have. Some of them I like better than others.
Yeah.
Even some of the Barbara Cooney ones I think are better than others, but you can still tell that it was actually a painting or a drawing and not just a slap together 2D Peppa Pig
Yeah.
thing. Image. If it's art as opposed to an image. Patricia Polacca is an artist illustrator that we like a lot too. And I don't care for her style of art as much. Just that the faces are a little ugly to me.
It's a little horrific.
A little bit ugly. But the stories are really good. This one is called The Keeping Quilt. It's about I think they're Russian Jews that immigrated.
Okay.
And it's the story of like her great-great-grandmother, I think, who came across, and all they had was like the clothes on their backs and whatnot.
Yeah.
And so they take various articles of clothing from various family members and they make it into a quilt. And it gets used as I think huppah is the word. I might not be pronouncing that right, but it's a wedding covering in a Jewish wedding. They'd be under the little covering, and so they use this quilt as the huppah for multiple generations of women in the family.
Okay.
Including, because this is Patricia Polacca's own family history that
Okay.
she's writing about.
Yeah.
So this is like her quilt now. So this is,
Okay.
as far as I can, it seems like a real story about that. She goes, and this is when Patricia, was born, and one day my daughter will use the quilt as her huppah when she leaves home and takes it with her. So it's this fantastic tying together of family history and remembering.
Okay.
So just something to keep the family together
Yes.
and tradition.
Yes.
So we talked a bit about, that may seem to be a little bit at odds with immersing yourself in a new culture and putting aside your old culture, which, in the United States of America, the United States will not work if a bunch of cultures come together and say, we want to retain our complete and totally intact culture apart from everybody else and just have pockets across the United States.
Right. Yeah. I mean, I think that probably does operate a little bit at odds with that, but I don't think, it's also absurd to say that somebody immigrating to your country is going to have a 0% influence on your country as well. Mm-hmm. So there's not, I
don't have a problem with them having an influence on it.
Yeah.
We talked about there's nothing wrong with the food being an influence, or as long as the cultural values, I think that's the important thing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And this they would have fit into the Judeo-Christian ethic.
Right.
So they would have been able to fit into America and say, we want to keep families intact.
Yeah.
This was the kind of immigrants we want.
Right.
Not ones who come in and go, we're atheists and we think.
Not the other kind of Jews immigrating to America. I gotta
keep on poking that bear. The Russian Jewish bear.
The Russian Jewish bear. That's true. We got to keep on poking that bear.
Oh my goodness! But you can keep doing it.
I can hear Chase screaming into his headphones right now. As soon as they don't have quilts, something like that.
Poor Chase.
Poor Chase.
He's not listening.
He does listen.
He does.
Yeah, he's subscribed.
Oh, hi, Chase.
He does listen. I don't know if he listens to every single one, but I can see which most.
Chris was listening too.
Yeah, Chris has listened. Yeah.
Is it when you invited him to be on? He goes, I guess I should listen to this.
Well, he's not going to be on Work Hard.
Oh, he's not.
No, he's not going to be on Work Hard. He's going to be on a different. I would have talked to you about that. I would not have interviewed somebody for the show without clearing with you first. This is as much as your podcast now as it is mine. I wouldn't have done that without you.
Well,
but
I'd say it's 70-30, 60-40 maybe.
I might agree to 60-30. I don't know about 70-30. Yeah, I'm interviewing Chris for Hyper Premium in general. I've got a vision for a new thing called Hyper Premium Presents. And then Hyper Premium Presents, and it'll
be like special editions of interviews.
Yeah, special edition interviews, or like eventually when I dox myself, I would like to do like documentaries and stuff like that. So Like I would really, one of the things I really want to do, we'll see if I ever get it done, but I would love to go to El Salvador and do like street interviews and see how the people in El Salvador actually feel about what's going on in El Salvador. So stuff like that. And so that would be like a Hyper Premium Presents. And this is going to be Hyper Premium Presents an audio special. And the audio special will be the interview with Chris.
Cool. Anyway, he had been listening in preparation.
Yes.
He asked early on, I think, about it, and I was like, I don't know how to direct you to the...
He did. He asked me several times, and I kept telling him I was going to send it to him, and I never did.
Chase, did you finally send it to Chase?
Yeah, Chase gets the emails.
Did you finally send it to him, the Substack link?
Oh, yes. Yeah. He's subscribed to the Substack.
He told me at one point, he goes, I'm not going to listen until Ethan actually sends it to me.
Yeah.
He's like, I'm not going to look it up. Because I was trying to tell him like how to look it up. He's like, no, Ethan said he'd send it to me. I'm just going to make him do it.
Yeah. I need to, because people ask me to send them the link, and I say I will, and then I don't. So I need to stop doing that. So it's good on him for standing his ground.
Not making it easy on you?
Yeah, not making it easy on me. But now we're on Spotify, so that's way easier to like, I can just tell people, well, I can just send people to Spotify. It's actually not any easier. I'm making excuses for myself. Yeah. So
nobody listens on YouTube.
Nobody does listen on YouTube. Not a single view or...
There's like 2 views on one video, which I think were me.
Yeah.
I don't have Spotify, so I was like, that's how you had listened. There's like 2 views on one of them, which was my wife and I.
Yeah,
on the first episode.
Yeah, Spotify and Substack right now are big ones. I mean, dude, we had that 100 download spike. That wasn't even a week. That was one day we got 100 downloads, which is a pretty big. I would say that's a pretty big deal.
Well, I guess what is it compared to what we had been getting?
We had been getting that in a month.
Oh, that was a jump from a...
Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you all for listening.
Yeah.
Appreciate you.
Yeah. So we've grown a lot. Like we're at, the Substack is up from like 45 to 50 views in a week to like 150 views a week. Wow. And then the podcast itself is up in downloads. We just hit 300. That 100 spike hit us to 300 total downloads, up from like 195. So now we're at like, so we're growing. We're growing little by little. We're growing.
Cool.
Yeah.
Well, we'll just keep on talking. Mm-hmm. The last book I brought in is the first one I mentioned, Basket Moon, illustrated by Barbara Cooney, which is a beautifully illustrated book. If you take a look at that cover. Oh yeah, I saw it. It's fantastic. Dude, it makes me feel relaxed looking at this. The Barbara Cooney illustrations are just gorgeous. Yeah. This one is about a young boy growing up in a hillbilly setting. Okay. I don't think he even has any like other kids necessarily. There's like a couple of other old men and his dad. They make baskets, and this is about a real life. Let's see, where was it? Do you know where she's finding these stories? No, I don't know. I kind of get the impression that people must come to her if she knows. If she's elderly now, I don't know if she's still around or not. There she is. Okay. I'll read the author's note at the end of this story. For more than 100 years, not far from Hudson, New York, there you go, a maze of families scattered in the highlands of Columbia County made a living and made art making baskets. Periodically, they appeared in towns around the county with baskets to sell. That was all the people of the Taconic area knew about them. But parents warned their children against the quote-unquote bushwhackers. Okay, got it. I was like, I don't know if that's the origin of the word bushwhacker or if they just applied it to these people. Yeah. The woods where they lived seemed spooked to outsiders. Stories grew, and myth was near already. To the west was the spine of the Catskills where Rip Van Winkle slept and the Headless Horseman rode. By 1900, no one remembered when this community had developed. Even the basket makers knew only that they had been there a long time, and that for a long time they'd been making baskets. They made thousands. By the 1950s, however, baskets were being replaced by paper bags, cardboard boxes, and plastic. Few collectors were thinking yet of baskets. There were fewer black ash trees to make baskets from, so fewer and fewer families made baskets, but some continued. And until her death in 1996, a remaining basket maker was still making these same baskets. The round, brown baskets the basket makers made are classic baskets, some of the best ever made by any basket maker anywhere. Many survive. In museums, in barns, in collections of American folk art. They were made to last. Very nice. So this is about a boy growing up in that community. Okay. So I think obviously the story is fictional, but the community is a real historical American community in New York.
Nice.
And so he knew nothing of the city. His dad wouldn't allow him to go to the city until he was old enough. And so he would just watch his dad make baskets, and the two older guys who lived in the community. And I think once every full moon, his dad would walk to town, probably because the moon illuminated the path.
Yeah.
I'd assume so. He just had this pole across his shoulders, and all the baskets he had made in that amount of time took him to town, and that was their income.
Yeah.
So kind of like Ox Cart Man.
Yeah.
Just a poor family living in a shack, and that was their subsistence, was making really high quality baskets from the splint of the trees and the technique of like hammering it to make the trees loosen the splint. And anyway, it's nifty. But the boy, when he does get to go to town for the first time, some people jeer at them and, hey, bushwhacker, hillbillies, yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
And the boy is just, being so sheltered, he's completely unprepared for that. Up until that point, he's incredibly proud of like his father and, what good baskets he makes and everything. But then he has an identity crisis of just like, maybe he didn't want anything to do with baskets after that.
Yeah.
For a little bit. And there's a little bit of weird like spiritualism about like, well, the wind talks to you and it tells you which, if you can listen to the wind, then it'll tell you what to do, that sort of thing.
Yeah.
So I'm like, whatever. Use filters with your kids and explain. These are also opportunities. When I find things in books that I disagree with, and this is also from N.D. Wilson, you don't have to have a book that you agree with everything completely in, but you have to be careful to educate your kids around that.
Yeah.
And ask them questions like, what do you think that means? What do you think it means that the wind talks to them? And they'll be like, I don't know. Maybe they'll have an idea and talk about how that is maybe not biblical.
Yeah.
That you're not listening to nature to. But there is an element to observe nature.
Sure.
And try things with it and care for creation.
Yeah.
So there's a lot to be gleaned there. So every single book, good stories always have something that you can glean from them and educate your kids on. Ask them questions and then talk about it, the story with them, and let them enjoy the story. Like our kids have access to these books all the time. And I think another thing the Wilsons were good about, and this is maybe more from my wife listens to their a couple of the wives.
What have you?
Yeah, what have you?
Yeah.
Just-
That's
listen
pretty
to that.
common. Pretty common voices I hear in my house when I
Yeah,
come
okay.
in for lunch.
They're
Yeah.
pretty funny.
Yeah, they are. Yeah.
I could listen.
Yeah, certainly.
Anyway, yeah, another recommendation is N.D. Wilson's sister, Rachel. She is an author and a podcaster. So the two, both of his sisters have a podcast that they do together. They just sometimes record it in their car while they're driving, or
Yeah.
maybe that's mostly when they do it.
I think they like get in their car because they have apparently this is how I understand it because Emily's all into this. They have they
My
like
Emily is too. She loves them.
yeah like weekly they like go together to go like thrifting, and before they go thrifting, they sit in their car and they record that their weekly episode.
What have you?
Yeah, what have you?
With a coffee and whatnot. I think they go and get coffees.
Yeah, something like that. Yeah, and it's very good. I mean, there have been times when I've been like, "Oh, I need to hear that," and like just pick up Emily's phone and rewind it all the way to the beginning of their conversation. And just listen all the way through. There's some good stuff in there.
Yes. One other thing is they have, in thrifting, Rachel at least will pick up extra editions of the books they already have because their books get so much wear and tear.
Yeah,
Because they're meant to be used. Like, don't worry and don't beat your kids up about beating up books.
yeah, certainly.
Teach them to treat things nicely, but don't fly off the handle when they rip a page, when they leave books out, when things get beat up.
Yeah.
They're going to get worn out.
Yeah,
It's a sign that they're enjoying the books and they're getting the proper use out of them. The books aren't meant to sit there and look nice on the shelf and like they're in mint condition.
Yeah.
They're not collector's items.
yeah,
So buy extra editions of the favorite ones that get beat up
Yeah.
and replace it. I think Rachel said they've gone through like 3 or 4 editions of one of the favorites. Some of the favorite books they just had to keep on replacing because it just gets trashed over and over again from so much use.
Yeah.
And our kids pore over these things sometimes.
yeah.
Love
Dude,
it.
I mean, Abigail will just sit. She'll sit on the floor and she'll go book, 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 and just over and over and over again. And you'll read through one, and she'll go, okay, again. And you just got to sit there and read through the whole book over, and you'll read the same book 7 times in 15 minutes. Yeah, they love it. They love books.
Human beings love stories.
Yes, they do.
Well, that is our hour.
That is our
Any
hour.
final comments?
No. Well, yeah, I guess I got a few. I feel like this one was. We've got some dead air in here, so we'll apologize for that. But I think this is good. Overall, I think it's a good topic. I think we covered some good stuff. I think it's important to make sure your kids, what is it? It's important to make sure your kids are exposed to things that are helpful to them and not things that are harmful to them, which seems like a kind of banal thing to say, but it's not, I guess, because so many people expose their kids to terrible stuff.
Without thinking about it.
Yeah,
it's easy to do without just thinking about it, especially whatever circle you're running in. If it's commonplace, you might not consider it. Whatever you were raised in, you might not consider. So do some thinking about how you were raised, how it was beneficial or not beneficial, and make the proper adjustments.
Yeah.
I would say the danger is pendulum swinging to the opposite of what your parents did. If you didn't like something and you pendulum swing way too far to the left or the right from whatever that was, that's probably not, depending on what it was.
Yeah.
For instance, if your parents beat you,
Right.
do not do away with any discipline whatsoever.
Right. Certainly.
Your children should not get to do anything they desire at any point
Right.
with never hearing the word no. That's way too far in the other direction.
Right. Or not ever receive a spanking.
That's what I'm driving at.
Yeah,
Spankings are not beatings.
Right. Spankings are not beatings. You could certainly overdo spankings and turn them into beatings.
Right.
Easily. Like spanking one too many times is a beating.
If you are emotional when you are spanking, that is that's a bad place to
That's
be.
a really bad. Yeah.
Calm yourself first and control yourself. So learn self-control. That's a very difficult thing. But the earlier you do that, the the better it'll be for your children.
Certainly. Yeah.
Spankings should be done out of love for correcting the child so that they will not bring harm to themselves and others.
Yeah. Yeah. You should feel quite neutral when you're spanking.
Yes.
Yeah. Yes. So that is good.
One last thing about stories is, and this is again bouncing off of things that Brian and Andy Wilson have said in their podcast, Stories Are Soul Food, is stories allow you to use the characters in that book as reminders for your kids in training in the future. You say, you remember how, I think there was a book that we had. It's like, you remember how the polite elephant? It was a Richard Scarry book called Polite Elephant, I think.
Okay.
Richard Scarry, I think German, at least the illustrations, all the characters are little animal characters wear like lederhosen and things like that. Have you
I've not seen it, no.
Busy Town? Richard Scarry's Busy Town?
Maybe. I thought Busy Town sounds kind of familiar.
Okay. I'm sure you've seen a Richard Scarry book somewhere in here.
I'm holding an image in my head of a little elephant in lederhosen. I can picture that very distinctly, so I'm sure I've seen it.
I'm sure you have if you don't recognize the author. But yeah, that's great, more beginner kid stuff.
Yeah.
Younger kid stuff. Very basics, like a lot of them have... Mother Cat took her kids to the, grocery store, and then it has like oranges, apples, everything's labeled as well. So it's like, this is a yellow car. This is a yellow bus. This is a green pickle car. This is a police car. This is a fire truck. So it's a great, just educating the kids on what things are.
Yeah.
So early stages
kind
of kids book. And the Polite Elephant was manners. In different circumstances. The polite elephant always holds doors open for other people. He always says please, when he's asking for something, and thank you when he receives something, stuff like that. So he never yells at people, stuff like that. So my wife was always like, do you remember the polite elephant? What would he have done, instead of what you did?
Yeah.
What would the polite elephant do? And they're like, oh, he would say thank you.
Yeah. Yeah, and that's
so
a big...
it sticks in their head instead of just you going... Blah, 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 blah.
Yeah.
It's like, oh yeah, my favorite character in that book.
Yeah. And
he did this. I want to be like the polite elephant.
That's a huge part of what stories are for people is like giving them examples and heroes to like aspire to. Mm-hmm. It's a big part of the reason why it's such a sinful, fallen thing to create the Game of Thrones. Where there's just everybody's effectively just a bad guy, and even the people that are kind of good guys are still like despicably fallen, irredeemable people that
Ugh.
live in a state of unrepentant rebellion against whatever is, considered the good in the world. So, yeah, it's crap. Anyways, that's a good one. Good episode. 1 hour and 5 minutes. That means I'll be able to edit this down to a good hour. So we're kicking up. Hyper Premium is going to start producing other content outside of this podcast. So look out for that stuff. Hyper Premium presents an audio special. Will be the first one. I don't know when that's going to come out. I imagine in short order. And then after that, I'm going to do an interview with an old grade school buddy of mine who's a flat earther. We're going to talk about the flat Earth.
We're not advocates.
Yeah, well, we are not personal advocates of the flat Earth.
Is this the purpose of this to poke holes in it?
No, the purpose of it is to have an interesting conversation.
Okay.
I'm very, very disinterested in having people on to like ridicule them or paint their ideas.
Well, I would
as
be
stupid.
concerned about that, I guess, if you were. But
yeah.
all the other the concern on the other side of that is giving platform to spread disinformation.
Yeah, I'm fine with spreading disinformation. It's listen, dude. I'm not on board with this whole like disinformation. Listen, the things you listen to, it's your responsibility to verify whether or not they are disinformation or not.
But I mean, you're going to be pushing back, aren't you?
I'm just going to ask him questions about. Yeah. I'm just going to say like if he says something ridiculous, then I'll be like, well, what about this?
I guess I just have a hard time seeing how it, not that you would be mocking and doing it, but I have a hard time seeing you having an interesting conversation where you'd be like, oh yeah, oh really? So that's very,
Yeah. No, I really, the thing I'm interested in having the conversation with him about that I ultimately is what I think I would hope people glean from it is that, most people who would ridicule a flat earther do not have any more ground to stand on when it comes to their reason why they believe the earth is round than
because they were told it.
Yeah, you believe the earth is round because you were told when you were a kid. That's why you believe the earth is round.
Also because you can't see the edge of it.
Yeah, and you can't.
I mean, that's the best evidence.
Right.
Is that it drops off. The horizon drops off at a certain point when you're staring across a flat desert.
Yeah, but they have, the thing that they would say is like a legitimate, they have a very legitimate, and he'll explain it, like we'll dig into it, but he has like a very legitimate, irrefutable reason why that would occur while the earth is still flat. Like it's not.
Is it like length of sight?
Yeah,
you
like
just can't actually see that far.
Well, yeah, that, and also like on a planar, like on a totally flat plane, you can't, like eventually perspective will create the appearance of a curve, just mathematically speaking.
Really?
Yeah,
okay.
It'll create.
Well, that's fascinating.
Yeah. So
I now see why you'd like to have this conversation.
Right. Yeah. And because every time I've heard somebody talk about it, like it's just in this like mocking sort of these people are stupid. And my friend isn't stupid. My friend's a serious person. And he has, obviously there are parts about it that he thinks that we would say are facile and ridiculous, but it's not. I don't think it's helpful or productive or even fun to have a conversation where you have somebody on who is a poor representation of a certain idea and then like try to clown on them.
Oh well,
for
no,
views.
that's not any good.
Yeah. So, and he's also just a spaz. He's just like a really interesting person to talk to. So, like he just like says very odd things constantly. So he's just very entertaining and fun to talk to. So, so there'll be that one as well. That one will come out. I don't know when that one's going to come out. We'll see when I have time to do that interview, and then I'll have to edit that down. But I want these to be longer forms, like 2 or 3 hours, or they'll be 1 hour, multiple episode. I don't know. We'll see how they play out. We'll see how this one goes with me and Chris, and then we'll see if Chris and I have more of a conversation I feel like is there to unpack. But mostly it's just I just want to talk to people who have sincere operating levels of expertise on interesting topics.
Yeah,
is my thought.
Roganish.
Yeah, Roganish. Yeah, Roganish. I want.
Thanks, Rogan, for starting for making that popular.
Yeah, for making that popular for sure. And I feel like there's just so little like. I think I may have said this to you once, but I feel like now I'm kind of selling what I'm doing here. That's kind of why I'm talking about this stuff. I'm selling it to our viewers, or our listeners.
Yeah, you want them to hop over and check that out too.
Yeah, I feel like there's like what Vice was. I don't know if you remember Vice when it started.
I never looked at any Vice,
Okay.
except for maybe a stray article here or there. That
Yeah.
up, but Not familiar.
when Gavin
We've talked about it
McGinnis,
before.
yeah, okay, when Gavin McGinnis was at Vice, when he was
Gavin
running,
McGinnis, that
the guy with the beard,
oh yes,
yes,
Get Off My Lawn,
yes,
podcast.
yes, he
that
started
I
Vice.
downloaded but did not listen to.
Yeah, it. There are parts of it that can be redeeming. There are other parts of it that are like totally despicable.
Of the podcast.
Yeah,
Oh, okay.
And just of Gavin McGinnis himself. He's a very polarizing person.
What I remember him is that one interview where he's telling the beautiful news lady, it's like, you'd be much happier at home. Like
Yeah,
that.
yeah. That was when I went
very
to
funny.
Yeah, when I went to college to be a reporter, I was like, I want to be Gavin McGinnis.
Yeah.
And
He found the Proud Boys too.
yeah, he started Vice. He started the Proud Boys.
Is Proud Boys where he wants it to be right now? Or is
I
he no
think
longer
he
involved?
no, I think he's no longer. I think
he
he was
pulled-
demanded by the court. He was instructed by the court that he had to like separate himself from the Proud Boys or go to prison. I think is
Oh, okay.
yeah.
It got away from him, did it?
Yeah, it got away from him. Yeah, I don't even know if it got away from him though. I don't.
Maybe.
That's a whole.
That's a whole
rabbit hole.
couple
We're trying to wrap it up, and that's
Sorry.
a whole rabbit hole. Oh, it's okay.
As I'm clarifying who figures are. Is he the guy?
Yeah.
Is that the meme where?
Yeah, he does this right.
Does that mean this?
Yeah, he's the guy that likes Hitler. So Gavin McGinnis started Vice, and when Vice was around, when it first started, it was really cool. It was really. I don't agree with the naming it Vice, but
Terrible name.
yeah, but it was really really cool. They did a lot of really good work.
I don't see how this could have failed.
Yeah, what could have possibly gone wrong? But then Gavin McGinnis got pushed out by advertisers. It was a whole thing. But anyway, so now Vice sucks, obviously. And like if you go to Vice.com, it is insane. The headlines are crazy. And it's just like sexual degeneracy and like all this. This is the worst.
Is what the title would lead you to believe.
Right, exactly. But when
Cocaine and hookers.
when Vice started, it was very cool, very like legitimately punk rock. Like it was just sick. It was unbelievably cool, and they did all these like really cool reports and had interesting conversations, and they just went after stuff that was like very taboo.
In Hyper Premium, we will punch a hole in the bottom of the ship if it ever becomes that and sink the whole thing.
I will destroy Hyper Premium.
There will be a button that we'll
Yes.
have, and if anyone ever gets a hold of it,
Yes.
it starts to turn it in that direction.
I'll go to
we will
jail.
run it up on a rock.
I'll go to jail before I allow Hyper Premium to be destroyed like that. But I do
It would
want.
be better to destroy it for the sake of your family not going to jail.
Yeah, well, that's what I'm saying. Is yeah, okay, yeah. Maybe I should let it be. Maybe I should let it.
But as opposed to letting it get away from you, trying to blow it up on your way out.
Yes, certainly. I will do everything in my power to stop
Dynamite
that.
the building on your way out.
Yeah, and it's really not that hard to stop something like that. You just have to be very careful with where the money is coming from, like where the investment money is coming from and all that stuff. It's
Don't tie yourself to...
yeah, just don't get greedy. Yeah, it's really kind of what it comes down to. But yeah, that's why I want Hyper Premium to be like a Christian version of Vice. As like I don't know if that sounds whack, but like
Might want to think about the online blackface handle.
I think the online blackface handle is funny. Again, I'm open to changing it. I just think it's funny. Yeah, but I want because like I feel like all the like truly profound Christian publications that exist, or publications that are operated by Christians, like American Heritage and First Things, and like all those really good publications, they're all like suit and tie, sort of everything's in Times New Roman. All the fonts are really beautiful. The web pages are all white and clean, and
We
everybody.
need something in papyrus.
I don't know about papyrus. I don't know if I can. I don't know if I can.
That was
reach
my
with
favorite
papyrus.
script as a kid. The only one I remember.
Was
I was like,
papyrus.
oh, papyrus is really cool.
Have you seen the SNL skit with Ryan Gosling, the papyrus one?
Yes, I've seen it twice and I've already forgotten again what it is about. I just remember it being funny both times.
He's
For
just
some
like-
reason I can't remember. What
He's
it's
just bothered by people using papyrus, like in ad copy and stuff. It just like bothers him, and so he like stalks the guy who made papyrus, I think, and goes to his house.
Oh, okay.
I think that's how it ends. I don't really remember. But anyways, I want there to be an edgier, sort of more biting thing out there that isn't this like suit and tie straight laced sort of. I want something grungy or something gritty or something that's more willing to engage and maybe Not
Maybe having like a flamethrower giveaway once a year,
something that's even maybe more out there than some of the stuff Canon Press does. Like, like I want, and like I
You
feel
hear that,
like,
Doug? We're gonna one up you.
yeah, I'm gonna go even edgy.
We're coming for you, Doug.
Yeah,
Moscow, look out.
look out, baby. Yeah, I want something that's run by Christians. I'm really apprehensive to say like, oh, it's a Christian thing, because I think that should be implicit. I think that being not a Christian company should be odd. Like I don't think anybody should be like, wow, it should be a moniker, a way to distinguish yourself by being like, we're a Christian company. I think that should just be
that sign on 64 says Christian spray foam. Have you seen that?
I've never seen it. No.
When we first moved here, my buddy and I were driving past. We're like, "What on earth is Christian spray foam?"
It's been blessed. They
Like,
pray over it.
Have a blessed spray foam.
That's crazy. Yeah. So I just want something that's. I want a publication that is willing to do something like interview flat earthers. That is also not a totally deranged source
That
of
is
media.
Canon Plusy.
Yeah, like
Interviewing people they don't necessarily agree with.
yeah, I want to interview a ton of people I don't necessarily disagree with. And I want to do things like go to risky parts of the world and display the honest opinion of whatever people it is, like outside of whatever political narrative that may even be fitting to our worldview. Like I don't think that this would happen, but if I went to El Salvador and found out that the people of El Salvador actually didn't like Bukele, then I would still put that out. But like that's what I want. I want a grittier, grungier sort of alternative thing that exists.
Trying to get us both assassinated by El Salvadorian.
By the El Salvadorian president. Yeah. I don't know. I just feel that way. Like I feel sometimes like I don't necessarily fit in with the like suit and tie sort of straight suit. Like we went to the dinner for 8 last night, and obviously everybody there is like they're members of our church, and it was a great night. We had a great dinner, but there are like huge swaths of the conversation and like obvious cultural differences between me and the like properly oriented, like, I don't know. I feel like I'm digging you're looking at me weird, like I'm digging myself a hole. So
I know we can't talk names, so we'll have to talk about that after. I'm just curious.
Yeah. It just felt like, one of them asked me like, what's your story? Like, how did you come about? Like, what's your like coming to manhood story? And I was like, and they were like,
how much time do you have?
Yeah, they were.
How much tolerance do you have?
Yeah, the ultimate, because I'm like in front of their kids and stuff. So I was like, I spent some time.
Very worldly.
Yeah, ultimately what I said was, I spent some time as a guest in the state of Texas, and
as a what?
As a guest of the state of Texas.
Oh,
and
okay.
Everybody laughed, whatever. And one of their sons like wants to be in law enforcement, so I was hanging out with his buddies.
Oh, okay, I know.
And
I know who you're talking about now.
Okay, yeah. So yeah, I was hanging out with his buddies, and everybody laughed, and he was like, "Other side of the bars." That's not what he's talking about. Like, so it was funny, but it was like not at all the background any of them have, and not at all the like cultural fit.
Yeah.
That I think like I can blend well into any environment, but it's not like my preferred environment is like this. Mm-hmm. So like alternative and
a pub.
Yeah, pub.
Hey guys, the pub's coming.
The pub is coming, baby.
5-year plan.
Yeah, 5-year plan for the pub. Yeah.
10-year maybe. Who
knows? Recording studio. You can come listen to us record live, get a beer.
Oh, that'd be so cool.
That'd be so sick.
It'll be great.
It'll be awesome.
Oh, that reminds me. I have a sketch for the for what could be the one of the names that I came up with for the pub. I found it in my wallet the other week. Let me run up and get it after this.
Okay. All right, let's call it. We're 20 minutes over time. Let's call it. Everybody.
Keep listening, everybody. We love you.
Yeah.
Go to church. Get a good woman.
Have some kids.
If you have a lousy woman, be a good husband anyway.
And she will probably become a good woman after that.
Yes. Amen and amen. Raise godly kids. Read them good stories. Teach them to be glorifiers of God.
Yeah.
Praise God. Jesus is Lord.
We'll be praying for you. We love you guys. See you next week. Bye-bye.